What if The Boys was written by the mangaka of quintessential quintuplets? Well, you'd get Go-Go Loser Ranger. As a huge fan of the quintessential quintuplets for the balls that it had to not only be a great story, but as well, somehow a great harem, maybe the only good one, many were taken aback when Negi Hariba unveiled his next series, which was going to be based on Super Sentai or Power Rangers, though calling it that is not technically correct. Even though the title references Power Rangers, this was a marketing decision to appeal to Western audiences. And to everyone's surprise, this concept was a huge hit. Originally dubbed Ranger Reject within manga circles and kind of just actually what it's called, this series quickly garnered acclaim for its fresh take on superheroes and Sentai, flipping the script to portray the villains as plucky underdogs and the heroes as squeaky clean plastic egotists. As I mentioned earlier, it's akin to an anime version of The Boys, and the comparison really does hold up. So in today's video, let's dive into and dissect the inaugural episode of Ranger Reject. Alongside Ranger Reject, we'll also be covering My Hero Academia Season 7 and Demon Slayer Season 4 in May. If you enjoy my videos, be sure to subscribe, grab a t-shirt, become a patron, or pick up some gamer subs using my link in the description or pinned comment, or become a community member by joining our Discord. All roads lead to the description. So as a massive fan of Ranger Reject, though I admit I am very behind on the manga currently, this opening shot was amazingly done. It's just a simple showcase of the Sky Fortress, which is where one of our main factions of the series resides. The Dusters, aka the Villainous Army. It resides 10,000 meters above ground level in Japan, and what's more peculiar is that it appeared one day with no explanation. This is actually a huge moment in the history of humanity in Ranger Reject, as their appearance would mark the start of a never-ending war between humans and the Dusters, which humanity has dubbed the Monsters. Immediately, we get a showcase of our Dragon Keepers in action in a well-done action sequence showcasing the heroism of all of the Keepers. They pretty much just beat up the Dusters and have little to no trouble doing it. I mean, really, they're honestly the perfect image of Sentai. In 13 years since their appearance, they've had 999 battles between the Dusters, and they've won every single one of them. These battles take place every Sunday on a weekly show called Sunday Showdown, where people are allowed to watch in stadiums. If you think about it, it's kind of odd, isn't it? Why broadcast and make the spectacle of what could be humanity's downfall? But that is the thing. It's not supposed to make sense, as we find out. Just before the showcase begins, we see Red Keeper treating his fans well and signing autographs. The public perception of these heroes really is at a high. People believe that they can do no wrong at all, and the opening shows the state of things in their culture. The Sentai are heroes to the people in every which way, and they're marketed as such too. This is when we're introduced to two, I'm sure to soon be mega beloved characters, Yumeko and Sakurama. Both of them really showcase that iconic Negi Hariba art style that carries over in part from quintessential quintuplets, which was a very good move by him to do here. These two are essentially trying to recruit what will be revealed as a Duster, Duster D. And they both, that's a funny name by the way, Duster D. But anyways, they both lay it on him to try and recruit, which he feels there is no need for as there have been no casualties, but as Yumiko tells him, it's protocol to say that, and she persists. Taking the flyer, he thinks about it, and Yumiko reassures him that it's not that hard, and that whether he'll be like those Sentai on the poster is another story completely. This line is a hint at the twist at the end when it's revealed that he is a Duster. After all, what Yumiko said here, though, is true. He's really nothing like them. He's a villain! But Yumiko lays on the charm, man, and takes his hand into hers. And let me tell you, I have no doubts in my mind Yumiko is going to be a hugely popular character as the series rolls on. She gives him that low-angle glare with those big round eyes and says the rest is up to him. And I don't know about you, but I think I'd be signing up pretty much immediately. I'm not really into those Makima types, but when it comes to Yumiko, I'm willing to make an exception. And as well, yeah, this is sort of like one of those Makima-ish kind of characters, I think, for this series. So if you like Chainsaw Man and you like Makima, maybe worth a shot checking this one out. But standing in Amanogawa City's first district, he looks up to the Sky Fortress above in a very impressive shot. This anime is by Yostar Productions, and they've got some really amazing talent on hand because their use of these moving 3D shots is smooth. Plus, we can also spot a lot of cool details like the advertisements. One one showcasing the Green Keeper, another Yellow Keeper's gaming PC build, which is without a doubt a clear sign this guy's going to be a nerd, and Pink Keeper's beauty products, which is another sign of who she's going to be like. But it's a good show of state of things and how the Dragon Keepers in more ways than one have become a product to sell to the people. And speaking of products to sell to the people, real quick, you can be My Hero Academia by using my GamerSupps link to get 10% off your order. It's delicious, comes in various flavors, and every sale I get a kickback that supports me. I also recommend the Jujutsu Kaisen flavor, by the way. This amazing detail continues as the Dusters make their entrance, beaming down from the Sky Fortress above them into the stadium as this amazing score plays to this amazing animation. Seriously, if this is their theme for every time the Dusters make any sort of entrance or for our main character, I'm gonna be a happy camper. But this entire fight really is just meant to showcase how humanity views these Dusters. To them, they're monsters, and the people show that by throwing trash at them, while the Dragon Keepers make their entrance with cool poses and explosive colored smoke behind them, which is a classic Super Sentai thing. And a touch I loved about this was that they got Gojo's VA to voice the Red Keeper, and he very effortlessly embodies this character with perfection. I mean, he comes off exactly like how I imagined him to be. Egotistical and plastic. It's also some great action in general, and if you're coming from Quintessential Quintuplets, I'm sure this is a shock to the system. Negi Hariba really was able to go from a series focused on 5 twins and a harem to something really dark and action-heavy like this, but hey, while the odds were against him, he was able to do it. And also I have to mention the Tiger Truck. It's just a perfect showcase of the entire spectacle this is and how everyone participating is essentially a fraud. There is nothing about any of this that is flattering for any side. The Dragon Keepers look like fake dorks, and the Dusters look like pitiful losers. And it makes sense why Duster D would decide, such a good name, would walk into the blast of the Sentai, because he really is tired of all this fake BS. And if you didn't know by now that the Dragon Keepers aren't who they're really chalked up to be, pay attention to this moment after the blast where the art showcases their presence. It's smug, demeaning, and pandering. They're so full of themselves because how could they lose when the game is rigged from the start? Also, a really cool fun fact, when the Dragon Keeper called for commercials in this episode, in Japan they actually aired commercials after he said that, which is just such an awesome cool detail. We then rewind to an hour before in the Sky Fortress as we see the Dusters trying to put together some sort of plan to essentially come up with some original and new entertaining way to lose. Seeing the state of the Dusters, it's very clear that they're essentially enslaved by the Dragon Keepers and humanity to lose to them constantly, forever. I mean, after all, they're immortal beings who can't die, so why not? But even with such a powerful ability, it really is flipped onto them and they're more or less the victims, which is something that I think is really smart to do here. It does beg the question though, when do heroes stop being heroes and become the things that they originally fought against? Who is the oppressed and who is the oppressor? And it's D who wants to break this cycle and restore glory to the villains. But when he needed his buddies the most, they simply outcast him for not just doing what's easy, which is the status quo of losing to the Sentai. It's honestly just depressing to see, and it does garner a lot of sympathy for these so-called villains. To me, at least, they come off as more of the plucky underdogs, if anything. However, I do appreciate D's attitude as he feels the need to make an honest show of it by suggesting the tiger villain, as it represents opposites, sort of, like the dragon versus the tiger in their culture, sort of think something like that. D wants to embody what it means to be a monster and a villain while the others just, they don't. Their wills have been beaten into the ground by the Dragon Keepers, but still, D wants total world domination while being laughed at for believing in himself and them. It's kind of grim, if you think about it. Interestingly though, one of the Dusters reminds D that years ago, when making the truce between the two factions, that they were to keep all of this a secret, that all of this stuff was just an act, and that at this point, when they see them as not even monsters and it's time to accept the lot in life they've been given, this only serves to irk D even further and motivate him. But D's been off on his own business as of late too, planning something, which of course we know what that is, but the Duster tells him something even more peculiar. A child in the crowd at a recent Sunday showdown cheered for him. Once again, when does a hero become a villain? And when does a villain become a hero? Well, it starts with the people in this instance, and how could you not want to root for the Dusters? A good villain is a threat to the hero and exposes his or her vulnerabilities. But the mistake the Keepers are making here in the long term is that these villains are functionally slaves playing the role of a villain. That's it. Eventually, people will catch on, and that kid cheering will inspire another kid to cheer, and then a parent, and then a friend, and so on and so forth. It grows like that. So, back to the present, when D runs at Red Keeper, and in his head, he feels like he's valiantly launching a counterattack, but in reality, he's a reject like all of the other Dusters, barely able to even sprint. So the Red Keeper takes care of him by telling him he's essentially their dog, and to know their place and lay down and take it like a good boy. These heroes are anything but that, and are arrogant when they should be forgiving and perfect, right? It's a nasty character trait and really sticks out even more when applied to someone who should be a symbol of peace. And after being defeated, D has simply had enough of this farce, so he's run away from the Sky Fortress, and the Dusters, realizing that they aren't meant to be villains and are meant to be slaves to the Keepers. But we get some one-on-one between Yumeko and D, phrasing, with a very interesting view here. I knew what they were doing, definitely knew what they were doing. I think that this being, though, the breaking point for D, it was clear when Yumeko came to the roof to randomly talk to him that Yumeko and Sakurama's offer wasn't just some annoying recruitment tactic, but an opportunity. D wants to be as strong as the Keepers are, and what better way to do that than, join them? Because, after all, if you can't beat them, join them. Ranger Reject easily has one of my favorite set-up episodes because it's simple but executed so well. As a huge fan of The Boys, I love that show for the same reason I love Ranger Reject. It breathes life into Sentai how The Boys breathed life into Heroes. Now, to be fair, I don't have a clue about any of the Sentai lore outside of the fact that Power Rangers in the West use Super Sentai as base footage. Also, rest in peace Jason Frank as an aside, but how could someone not find this premise interesting? I mean, it's heroes versus villains, but the roles are completely reversed. How many times do we really get that in a really good format? As well, I also love D as a MC in this series because he has a fire and urgency within him and has a little bit of dare I say, Eren Yeager hidden within him. Plus, the Keepers are such arrogant, egotistical villains that it's hard not to hate them. And with the air of mystery around why Yumeko is so damn sus and the fact that she's got a lot of Makima vibes coming off of her, she's gonna be a really big character. And I think Ranger Reject's initial episodes will be just really good overall. And as a person who has read a good bit of this series, truthfully speaking, it only gets better over time. But all of this was just my judgment, and the rest will be up for you in the comments to decide your thoughts. Let me know what you think about Ranger Reject Episode 1 and where this series is headed. Also, support the channel by becoming a patron, buying some merch, using my GamerSubs partner link, or just being a cool person and dropping a like and subscribing. Thank you everyone so much for watching. Bye-bye.